Okay, cool. So this is my talk for DIY techniques for aquascapes, paludariums, and aquatic displays. I'll be going over a lot of techniques that I've learned and implemented throughout the years on how to construct aquascapes, but more of the construction part of it, we're going over stuff like gluing stuff or keeping things attached, that sort of stuff. So there'll be a lot of takeaways from this talk. We'll go through the agenda first. So I'll have a slide that goes into the DIY part of it, and then we'll go through the different construction materials we use, glues, adhesives, and then mechanical securements. So those are like the zip ties and screws and stuff. And then structure materials. So those are stuff to like bring your aquascape up and do cool designs that you would never be able to without it. And then we'll go through a couple techniques that are like put together, because these are very specific techniques, but when you put them together, you can make some amazing things. Then some planting hacks, just since this is a aquatic plant club, so we gotta include that. And then I'll go through my 2 tanks that I completed for the Aquashella contest, one in Dallas that I got first place in 2024, and one in Daytona. And then this year in 2025, I went to Dallas and I got a 2nd place. And then some closing notes, and then we'll move on with the paludarium demo. So the reason I chose a paludarium is, one, we've done demos in the past, but they've always been aquascapes or aquariums. So I thought this was a good opportunity to showcase some of the techniques that are going to be presented here today, plus show you guys a different, concept that's not just an aquascape. So I think it will be fun. And I like to draw usually when I do my sketches. So I do just draw like on an app on my phone. And then I also have a scape box so that I can kind of mock up my designs after I draw them. And so this is kind of stuff you can do to practice on the side to keep your aquascaping up to level, so that you don't necessarily need to commit to an entire aquarium. You can kind of just draw and scape a little bit, tear it down, do the next idea, whatever inspiration you guys get. So let's move on into the talk. So why is DIY important in aquascaping? Well, for the simple fact that a lot of these things that you can make or create, you kind of have to, because there's nothing on the market that's going to get you a completed aquascape. And you guys know this, because you can't just buy a ready-made aquarium with all the plants grown in. You have to put stuff together, put it in. So I think it's very important that these techniques are learned so that you can start being more creative with the creative process and create things that you could not buy at the stores, or if someone is selling it to you, they'd sell it to you at an insane markup that you wouldn't afford otherwise. So it's good to know these techniques so you can do them at home. And these are some of my creations at home. Some of them are hardscapes that I made just for fun. This one here is a IKEA cabinet that I DIY'd into a vivarium. So I'll go through some of the techniques on how I made some of this stuff. So let's go right into it. The first series of things I want to talk about is glues and adhesives. So the overview definition is a bonding agent that's used to join hardscape pieces together, commonly used to glue driftwood to rock, or rock to driftwood, driftwood to driftwood, or even plants to driftwood. So there's 4 different types that I'll go through today, and there's many others, but these are the most common, or at least the ones I like to use. So this is probably the most common one that you guys have heard of, which is super glue. It comes in, usually the brands you see is like Gorilla Glue, or you can get some generic ones on Amazon as well. The next one is aquarium silicone. This one's probably very popular. You guys all know about it. You can use it for not just building aquariums. You can use it for binding hardscape together, rocks, anything like that. One that I particularly like to use is the expanding spray foam. So great stuff is the general brand of it. You can spray the foam and it'll expand and it'll bind and set different pieces of hardscape together. So that's a more permanent situation. And then there's 2-part epoxies. These are very popular in the reef hobby, where people are using them to bind like the live rock or the rock together. This is a very, it's almost like concrete once it's all set. And a fair warning that all these adhesives and stuff, these are chemicals, so you typically don't want to get them on your skin. So I caution people to use gloves where possible. Sometimes when the chemicals mix, you have fumes and stuff, especially from the super glue, so you want to have face protection, eye protection, So things like that. So, and plus it sucks when you get these adhesives on your fingers, because if anyone's used them before, they could take days or weeks to, you know, get them off. So it's not good, because, you know, if you're playing around with it, you might get on the wall and then your wall's screwed.
You just use acetone.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Yep. So with super glue, you can use acetone. It'll dissolve, and it's like finger nail polish remover, right? Yeah, typically. So for the presentation, I'm going to go through super glue, this gel super glue. So this is a cyanoacrylic base adhesive, which when fully cured is inert and fish safe, and it's often sold in small bottles that are either in liquid or gel form. When applied to a surface, cyanoacrylic components react with the water or moisture in the air. So in the bottle, there's no moisture or air. Once it comes out of the bottle, it interacts with the moisture and air, or moisture and water in the area, and then it rapidly cures into hard material. So this is the super glues, and then there are catalysts that help make the reaction faster or stronger. So we have water, that's a given. You can use baking soda to make the reaction faster. You can use cotton. People like using that as a binding agent. And then there's this newer thing, which I've seen in the last couple of years, is the accelerator spray. So usually when you buy some of these super glues off Amazon, they may come with an accelerator spray. So you put the glue in and you spray it, and it just accelerates the reaction. So it's almost instantaneous. So within 1 or 2 seconds, it does the reaction. So with the super glues, there's usually 2 types. There's like the liquid ones, and then the thicker gel types. So the liquid ones I prefer for hardscapes, to bind hardscapes together, because I believe it's stronger. And the gel ones you typically use for plants, but you can use either or, whatever you've got. And the general cost for these, usually the super glue with accelerator combo is only like $20 off Amazon for a decent bottle, and it'll last a while. So how do we use the liquid super glue? So there's many examples of how you can use it. This is one of the standard ones that I do. So usually I grab a piece of tissue or cotton, and I will wet it a little bit, dampen it so it's more malleable, and then you stick it between 2 pieces of hardscape. And then step 2, so that's step 2. Step 3 would be applying the super glue. So it's like a liquid base, so you just do a couple drops on it. You don't need a whole lot. And then step 4 would be, as it's curing with the cotton, you spray it with the accelerator, and it makes the reaction go faster. So I will show you an example video here. So those are 2 pieces of driftwood. We put the cotton or tissue paper in between. Then we use the liquid super glue. And then we spray it with the aerosol. And you can see it in real time, it becomes hardened. So that's a connection that won't easily break. And the pro tip with this is, if you use 1 connection is strong. If you use 3, 4, 5, as many as you need, it gets stronger. So that's typically how people use it. And of course, if you wanted to make it even stronger, before you add the super glue, you could add baking soda. You can just sprinkle it in. And then after that, if you want to cover up the connection, because it usually leaves like a white residue. It's like you can see in this like thing I made, there's some white here, right? So if I wanted to, I would sprinkle in some dirt or sand, and then I'd glue it in again. And I wouldn't use the spray, because the spray makes that white stuff as well. So I would just put some dirt, sand over it, and put some super glue, and it looks as if it's like blended in with the entire scape. And again, just a warning, the super glue creates fumes, so there's a reaction, right? So it creates some fumes, which you don't want to breathe in. So try scaping in a highly ventilated area, or keep a window open. And then of course, cover your eyes and your mouth, because you don't want the super glue, any splashes or anything to go in your eyes or your mouth, because that probably wouldn't be a good thing. And use gloves if possible, because you don't want the super glue to cure to your fingers, because it can, and sometimes it does burn. I've had it burn on my finger one time, and it was really painful. Luckily, that's not happened in a few years, but just a word of caution, if you're a beginner especially, use the proper care equipment. Okay. So the next one I'll go through is the expanding spray foam. So I personally love this, and I've seen this. Yes, Scott?
quick question.
Yeah.
About the super glue.
Yeah, we'll go
I
back.
haven't used it in a while, but so if you don't use the accelerator, how long does it take to set up?
The accelerator can, like the spray?
If you don't use it.
Oh, it's
15-20 seconds.
yeah, 15-20 seconds. Yeah, it's not long. So the cotton is really what helps it out a lot. Sometimes people sprinkle in like dust or sawdust, sand, anything, just stuff to get more contact points between the two. If you don't use the spray can, it's completely fine. As Bilal said, it should only take maybe like 10 seconds or so. But it depends. Like I personally just like using it just because it's instant and it's set. Especially if you want to keep working, go one, next piece. But if you're in a home setting, there's no rush, then it's completely fine. And the bare minimum you need is just the super glue with a little bit of tissue paper.
It's the cellulose that's in the paper or in the cotton.
Okay.
That forms that reaction that hardens it.
Nice. Okay, moving on, we'll go talk about spray foam. So these are cans of aerosol that you can get at Home Depot, from the garden center. There's two types. There's one that's like normal white, and then there's one that's pond and stone. Both are safe for fish, but this is colored black, so it's a little nicer. And so it has a longer cure time than super glue. Super glue is within 30 seconds max. This is more of a, you set it, you walk away, you come back the next day type of product. It's relatively strong. It's hard to rip apart pieces that have that, but you can, if you have a razor blade, you can cut through, and then you can also use like a wire brush and kind of get away the residue. So one of the tips I use is I use masking tape to kind of contain the foam. So when you use it, you spray it, it kind of goes outward. But if there's no like physical obstructions, it kind of can go anywhere and it can kind of fall. And so I use kind of like, I'll take two pieces of wood and I'll put some masking tape between it, and then I'll foam in on the masking tape so that it kind of keeps the foam contained. So yeah, the yellow one is kind of the generic one you can get at Home Depot, most hardware stores, and it's pretty cheap. It's like $4. But the pond and stone one, recently it's been a little bit more expensive. It's more of a $10, $15 option. So if possible, you want to do a bigger build, you can use the yellow ones, and you'll get more out of it for the money. And then you can cover it up either with silicone and sprinkle in some sand, or there's various methods you can cover it up with. Typically, if I'm building like an aquarium, I'm going to use the black stuff. And then if I'm building a paludarium or terrarium, I will use the white stuff and I'll cover it up. Because it's a lot easier to do it when you're above the water line than below.
If you mist it, really fine mist, there's rocks there or the pond liner, it adheres it.
Okay. Yeah, because it also reacts with the moisture in the air, right?
Like a little atomizer, just a little, fine mist of water, and the foam sticks really well.
Oh, okay.
But
Didn't know that.
It skins over in an hour, but it takes 7 to 8 hours to cure.
Yeah. So when you use the foam, within about like 10 or 15 minutes or so, you can actually press it in and like it's the outer layer has cured, but the inner layer is still curing. So you can use, you kind of like push it in and take out the air that's trapped between the structure. So you can kind of do that to make it less airy and more secure once it finally dries. And I've got some videos I'll show you in a second here. So how would you use it? So I would put, again, the two pieces of hardscape next to each other, and then you'd point the nozzle of the spray can. Let me see if I have one. I know I got it in here somewhere, but this is messy. Yeah, it looks like this. So you just point between the two pieces, you spray. And then you can wait 10, 15 minutes for the outer layer to kind of cure, and then you can push it into the cracks that you need it to. And then if you want it to be like more, it takes a full 24 hours or more to be completely set. But after you push it in, I can continue kind of working on it. Other places escape, and I don't have to worry about it being wet when I kind of move my hands around the tank. So first I'll show you a video of how you can apply it. So this is a terrarium that I was building, and so you can just kind of and of course you can control how much comes out by, you know, the pressure you put on the handle or the lever. Oh. And then I'll show you a video of me pressing in the foam. So after, this is the black one, after it's cured, you can just shove it into the crack, and what you're doing, you're just poking out the air. You're just flattening it out. And it becomes even more rigid afterwards if you do that.
Where were your gloves, sir?
That's exactly what
So,
I don't want to bust you, but I know somebody.
okay, so I cut it out, and I don't know if it'll show. No, it doesn't. I clipped it already. I took a stick and I poked it to see if it was still wet or not. So if you don't use gloves and you're playing with fire like me, you know, do as I say, not as I do, right? You can use like a stick or something just to touch it, see if it's still wet. If it's not wet, then it's like, yeah, sure. But, you know, you guys are the beginners, so wear those stuff. I'm the expert. So yeah, that's okay.
And I will say that stuff, if it gets on your clothes wet, throw the shirt away.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get it off.
Yeah. Be careful, because when you're swinging around the thing, it might get on the wall, it might get on your clothes. You know, it's not good to have it anywhere. But if you get it on the glass, you can take a razor blade and it'll sweep right off. So if you've got like tile on the ground, that's fine. Carpet, you're screwed. So yeah, one of the tips you can use is you can use like parchment paper, or you can use cling film, and if you want to spray it on that, then it comes right off. So sometimes if I'm making some mock-up scape and I'm using the foam, it'll end up attaching to the table, right? So you just put down some plastic and then it'll peel the plastic right off.
Before it cures, you can use mineral oil or you can use an acetone.
Okay.
And wipe it.
Right. Oh yeah, because they do sell those chemicals, right? That you can,
Yeah.
and that's probably what that is.
I have the grown-up gun, which
yeah.
is really expensive.
I kind of want one.
Well, they work, but then you got to periodically
Clean
take
it.
the can off and then put a can of cleaner on it.
Yeah.
And you have to blow everything out of there, literally, because if it gets in there, it's a nightmare.
Okay.
But mineral oil, really quick, and on yourself, mineral oil or acetone.
Yep.
So take it off pretty quick.
Any other questions before we move on? With the super glue or the spray can?
We're all going around and buy some.
Okay, so the next thing I'll go through is the mechanical securement. So these are kind of like physical methods of holding hardscape pieces together. You can kind of use these while you glue, or you can use them as a permanent solution. So zip ties, I use zip ties a lot. So this can be either temporary or permanent. So like if you're scaping and you don't have a third arm to hold a piece, you can zip tie it on, then glue it, then take the zip tie off. For larger tanks, the super glue or foam are not as strong as using like a stainless steel screw. So this is like if you got two big pieces of driftwood and you're working on a big tank, and you want a suspended piece, I would drill a pilot hole and just send a stainless steel screw in. These will be, for the most part, inert. They're not going to rust, and most of the screw will be in the wood anyway, so it's not going to react with the water much. And if you want to completely seal it off, you could put some sawdust, sand, and then super glue over it to cover up the head of the nail. And then there's also fishing line, which you can use to suspend pieces of driftwood, rock, or whatever. There's various ways to use fishing line. I'm going to go through the zip tie and the steel screws in the next clip, and I'll show you how they're used. So on the left here, you can see a picture of just a mock demo of some scaping material or some driftwood, and I've got a bunch of zip ties here. So that's kind of like I don't have 5 arms to kind of hold all these pieces together, right? So as you go, you put down one piece, you put down another, you zip tie them, you put on another, you zip tie them. So you can kind of see what the finished product is before you glue anything, because this kind of lets you see that. Because once you glue it, then it's a hassle to rip it apart, or you don't want to make it permanent before you decide what to do. So an example application would be if you took 2 pieces of driftwood, you zip tied them in place together, and then you drilled a small pilot hole, and then you just drove like a stainless steel screw through them. And I'll show you a quick video of that. So these are 2 pieces that I have zip tied together. You drill a small hole, and then you can just drive a nail right through, and that's that. And then if you wanted to, you could take some sand or anything and sprinkle it on top and just douse it with a little super glue, and that's that covered. Or of course, with a lot of these things like zip ties and nails and stuff, you can always put plants over them. Plants will grow over them, and that's an option you can to hide them. So next I'll go through structural materials. So these are materials that are used to create ledges or allow for hardscape building in areas that are not previously possible. So materials are utilized in a way that can hold weight and lift the aquascape up. So there's a whole bunch that I commonly use, but these are some of the ones that I've put down. So plastic grid. So that is this guy right here. This is sometimes sold online as fish tank divider. You can get a whole bunch of this for like $20, $30 on Amazon, get a huge pack. So the more you buy, the cheaper it is. And then we have plastic bins. So there's these small bins you can get at Walmart that are only at like $1 or $2, and they're like storage organization bins, and they're only like yay big. And I like using them upside down to kind of like create height without having to use bags of lava rock, which you could as well, but that's just an option. And then we have foam board. So this is kind of popular with terrariums, paludariums, where you can kind of create a section for the filtration, or you can make bridges across different things and then just cover it up. And then we have filter bags. So that's your typical use of using lava rock inside a filter bag and raise some height. And then slate tile, you can use slate tile in combination with some of these to kind of create a ledge or an area that's elevated. And then styrofoam is also safe and inert. So I use styrofoam as well, mostly for paludariums or terrariums, just to fill some space in the back. Because it's cheap, easy to get. Typically not for aquariums as much because it is buoyant and it might potentially raise your aquascape up, which you don't want that. And then there's this fabric mesh, which they call tulle. We use it for our wabikusas. So I found that that's actually a pretty good material to kind of keep substrate back, or to keep areas where you want to plant. And I've had it in a tank for almost 3+ years, and it still hasn't disintegrated. So it actually does last. So it's not something that can like deteriorate over time. So that's cool. So this is one of my scapes I did for an older aquashella, but this is an example of some of these materials being used. So in this scape, and you can't see it because I've covered it so well, but there are 2 of these black crates in this corner and this corner, and then there's a slate tile that just goes across the top. And I foamed all the gaps in that are on top with this expanding spray foam. And so that allows me to put sand and plant up top as a ledge, and there's a cave down below. So these are kind of like bringing in multiple methods and putting them together to see if you can create something cool and unique. And if I didn't have all this stuff, everything would be flat on the ground, or I'd have to pile up like tons and tons of rock. And of course, aquascaping rocks aren't cheap, so doing stuff like this with a couple, pieces of plastic you spend $5, $6 on versus stacking up rock, so there's a lot of things to think about when you utilize these different materials. This is a terrarium build that I did a few years ago. So here's the styrofoam that I mentioned. So if you just have styrofoam from a box or whatever that you purchase online, I use the masking tape to kind of just keep it in place. And I built these little channels so that the water can go through and up when I put the pumps to put the water through. And then I laid some pieces of driftwood on top, just stuff I found in the yard. And then I foamed everything in. And once the foam comes in, after 24 hours, again, it's solid. It's not going to move around. And then the next step is adding more rock, foaming in. And then what you can do with the foam after it's been cured is you can carve it out with the razor blade. It just clean cut through and you can kind of chip away at it. And then to finish, I just added a whole bunch of moss on top, and I used like metal staples from like a stapler, and you can just press it right into the foam that's in the back. And then this is the last picture where it's kind of grown in. There's moss, plants, and the like. So that's that. And then let's go over some planting hacks. So there's a number of things you can do that kind of are, out of the box, out of ordinary, kind of just to help you out with your planting. You can try zip tying plants to small rocks. So instead of using the fishing line or fabric, what do you call it, the string or whatever, you can use zip ties, like really small zip ties. And then once the plant, like Anubias or giant fern, grow their roots through, you won't even see the zip ties. Usually I'll take a piece of Anubias and I'll zip tie it to like a small little pebble or lava rock piece. You can use, this is commonly done, they take stainless steel mesh and they cut into size and they'll put moss over it, and then they'll use fishing line to cover it, so then the moss will grow out. So this is kind of an example like this. So I have Riccia on a rock, and I have that fabric mesh over it, and I go around it, and then I zip tie it at the end right here, and I just dab a little bit of glue. So then that becomes a rock that's going to grow some moss or Riccia on top of, and I can just make 20 of those and scatter around my tank. So then another concept I came up with is if you wanted to create a canopy with plants up top, you can take a plastic cup, just like a 2-inch gardener's cup, and you can drill a hole through it, and you can use the screws, and you can attach it to pieces of driftwood. So this is for my larger tanks. So if I have big pieces of driftwood and I want to put not just Anubias and Java ferns on there, I want to put crypts or swords and stuff, and I want to put them up. That's an idea that I've come up with where you can make cups and holders, and in here you can put some aqua soil, gravel, whatever, and then you can plant plants that are normally on the ground, and you can put them up high. So that's one of the things you can do. You can create pre-made wabi kusas, and you can use, after you've grown them out, you can just kind of put them in the tank in areas that kind of create like a area that's like already scaped out, already grown in. And then you can also use kind of like the crate that we talked about to create like a ledge on the top of your tank, so you can put plants, moss, and the like up top. So you can kind of create almost a riparian type situation. So there's a lot of things you can do to kind of help your plants out grow in areas that you would normally not have the substrate or area to grow in using some of these methods. Any questions so far? Okay, so now I'm going to run through the aquascapes I did at Aquashella between this year and last year. So this is a tank I did last year in Daytona, Florida. This is the one that won first place, so I was very happy with it. That's the completed scape, and then this is a rough sketch that I did, just kind of like here and there on the phone, just doodling around. And this is the design that I went with, and we'll go through how I put this together. So this is typically how the fluvial aquascaping contests are. They have all the materials in the tank, just kind of a nice display for people to see, and then it's up to the scapers to take everything out and start playing around with the hardscape. So I'm not super great at taking progress pictures. I kind of work for like 30-40 minutes and then take one, so there's not going to be a ton of slides for this, but this is kind of the step one, if you could say, like when I'm working through it. So there's a big piece of driftwood here. You can see the plastic crate at the bottom. This is often used to distribute the weight so that the rocks aren't sitting directly on the glass. And you can see this big piece of driftwood, it goes all the way up here, and then there's a second piece that comes down here. So this is two different pieces of driftwood that I actually foamed in using the foam. And this part of the driftwood sits on the ledge. That's why this whole thing is suspended. So if I didn't have one big piece of driftwood that was like this, then two pieces of driftwood, unless I secured them together, they would never hold like this. So that's kind of a use case so that you can, and then if this tank was at home, I would drive a nail through both of these just to make it completely secure and it's not going to deteriorate over time. So yeah, let's move on to the next clip. So this is a little bit more progressed. You can see I added another branch over here. I added more rocks here, kind of creating a valley over here. Then we'll move on.
Are those rocks glued on the left already?
So it's a pain to glue every single rock. So what I do is I use the foam. So I will stack all the rocks. And then from the back of the tank, I will secure areas like here, here, here with the foam. And then that method that I told you guys about where you can just press it in, it kind of creates like a situation where you can just go spray, 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 wait 10 minutes, push it all in, and you're done. But if you were to use the super glue, it's tedious because you got to get some tissue, you got to put it in, you got to arc your fingers through, get the glue, because the glue is only going to fall straight down. The foam, you can kind of direct it because of the long snout. But the glue, it's harder to do, and especially in a situation like this where it's a timed contest where you only have 13 hours across 2 days to put it all together, I prefer using the foam, and the foam is much stronger than the glue so that when eventually the person who wins the tank takes it home, they're going to have a lot easier of a time taking the tank home in one piece or in sections. So that's one of the reasons why I particularly like using the foam. But that's a good question because it let me segue into that. Here's another piece, another picture. So you can see I put another piece of driftwood here that kind of creates that arch. There's Mr. John Pinney right there. Unfortunately, he's not here today. Otherwise, I'd call him out. And then here is the planted part. So I used the gel super glue to plant all this Monte Carlo on the wood. And then we have some crypts, and we've got some trimmed down wisteria. They didn't have such a great variety of plants, so we kind of had to make use. But yeah, I think it turned out very well, and I was happy with the outcome. And yeah, that was Daytona of last year.
Bilal, quick question.
Yeah.
When you secured the Monte Carlo, was that on, like sometimes when it comes in from the nurseries, it's on
Yeah.
the mesh?
Yeah, so
That
this...
was you adhere the mesh, or you're talking about gluing the plant directly onto the...
It was the mesh. So
Okay.
yeah, so the plants they sponsored us were from Fan. So I took the mesh squares and I had to cut back as much of the coco coir as I could, and then I'd glue it on top. But if it was at home, I would try to take out as much as I could and glue it directly. But because of the situation, it was like that. So then let's go to my scape I did this year at Dallas, which I got second place. I like this tank a lot better than the last one I did. Plus the picture is a little bit nicer. So again, we start with the same size tank, and we see that I used the plastic crate, the same one that I mentioned earlier that you can get from Walmart for like $1 or $2. And so this big piece of driftwood is able to be hoisted up because it's sitting on top of this pre-made structure. I would need, 4 or 5 bags of lava rock to hoist this up, and even then it might not be that secure as placed if I've done this. It's very compact, easy to put in, and I can raise my scape. And good use of the space. Good tip is to put a piece of tape right where you want your vanishing point to be, kind of like where your eyes go to when you're designing a scape. So it kind of keeps you focused on building around that. So that's why I have a blue piece of tape back there.
One
one question.
Yeah.
Seems like for right now, like with this setup, you got this height like perfect between the black
Right.
piece at the bottom and the wood. Did you modify either one, or was you just lucky like this?
So I think I got lucky.
Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like I cut much. I might have snapped off this part because they might have extended down. But for the most part, this one was a hard one to play around with. There was a lot of different permutations I had to go through. But for the most part, it was fitting in the tank. I think I did snap. It was either this one or I had to cut this because it was a longer piece. But for the most part, it did kind of just magically fit in the tank. And sometimes it happens like that. You find a piece that just kind of fits into the tank and you're like, okay, let me build off of this. So this is one of those scapes where you pick the biggest piece in the room, the nicest piece that fits, and then you build off of it. So you'll see in the next slide that I start building in the direction of that piece of wood. So I've got another big piece, relatively big piece that I put in, and it follows the curvature of the wood and starts working towards that eye point, that vanishing point that I'm working with.
Are they attached to the crate at this point?
So later what I did is I just foamed in this part. Yeah, so I just reached my hand in and I foamed it. If you wanted to, you could drill a pilot hole and then put like a zip tie through the crate. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Again, like here and here, if this was at home, I would drill a hole through here, drill a hole through there, and then zip tie the two together. So that's more permanent of a solution. The livescaping tanks are kind of weird because it's like I gotta do it quickly. So sometimes we do cut corners a little bit. But if I was at home and relaxed on my own time, then I would try to secure this as best as I can so that I make sure it lasts 5 years, 10 years, whatever, however long. You know, you never know how long you'll keep a tank up. So, and then
One other quick question.
yeah.
So I haven't worked with hardscape much recently. You've done a lot more work than I have with it. I always find it hard to secure things too much, especially early on, because then if you need to modify it,
Yeah.
you're having to like even if you want to like change the angle just a little bit,
Right.
it might be already too secure. How do you kind of balance that?
So-
How do you know when to secure it?
Right. So usually when I scape, if it's at home, it's not all at once. So sometimes I'll set pieces down and I'll sleep on it. I'll come back the next day. And another thing I like to do is I'll take a picture of this tank and then I'll draw. I'll try to figure out what looks good. And nowadays you get those apps with different layers and stuff, so you can do different options. Turn off a layer, turn on a layer, and see how it'll look. One tip for you, though, is if you zip tie stuff together, they actually do sell reusable zip ties. So you can zip tie stuff without having to cut, and you can just reuse the zip ties. So you can secure your whole scape with those, and then if you like what you're doing, then glue everything in, then just take off the zip ties. So that's one tip that you can use. So this is the next piece, and I did something quite interesting with this guy, is that this big piece of rock here and this guy over here, those are suspended. So they're not resting on anything. They're actually zip tied to this big piece of wood right here. And then what I did was I foamed in the connection between the two, both on this side and then on the other side as well. And then I gave it to 24 hours, and then I unhooked the zip tie, or cut it off, and the stone held. So
What was the purpose of doing that?
it was to fill the space. I didn't want to have this be a big gaping area. I wanted to have this be all kind of covered up and full of shadow so that your eyes go up here as opposed to here. And then it's also kind of cool because I want it to be like roots falling down like a mountainside. So that's why you see all the rocks all the way up to like here, stacked up, and then they're kind of cascading down from right to left. So something interesting, cool that I wanted to try. And you'll see in the later pictures, I add on to it a little bit more. What else? So that's that. So this was Friday of the first day, and we'd already worked for like 5 or 6 hours. And in my head, I wasn't super happy with how it looked. So when I went back to the hotel room, I started drawing. I took a picture of just this and I started marking up on it. So it's like, well, what will I do the next day? Because even when you go home, you can still utilize that time to design for the next day. So I'll show you guys some preliminary pictures that I did. So this is how I was envisioning it finishing off. So this is more root work, more driftwood. The plan was to add some stand up here using the ledge technique that I showed earlier. And so from here, I also planned out how I wanted the fauna or the plants to go. Unfortunately, they didn't have stem plants. They advertised that they would give us stem plants, but they didn't. So I was hoping for some orange rotalas to, fill out the back and come out and fill out this area and all this stuff here. They just had the normal tissue culture stuff, so it was mostly Monte Carlos and moss and stuff like that I had to work with, but I still think it turned out fine. So this was after planting and without filling. And so yeah, you can see a bunch of Monte Carlo, Anubias, there's hair grass in the back. So yeah, that's the picture. And this is a bonus slide where actually I used the foam board in the back and the expanded foam, and I made a ledge to where I could put gravel, sand, and plant back here. So this whole area back here is suspended. And this is the shot from behind the tank. So again, if you employ all these ideas, you can make stuff that, is really interesting, stuff you couldn't do otherwise. Because if I needed to plant up here, you'd have to stack rocks or substrate all the way up. And then you wouldn't get this cave effect where your fish could hang out in. So there's a lot of cool things you can do once you know these techniques. Okay, that's it. That's it. So then let's start with the demo, since I'm sure we're moving on time.
See, we need to let this make it right. I am smarter than this cord.
Off to the side to the hard
Which
time
one is it?
seeing, there's lots
That.
of space in the middle. If you wanna move, it's a middle.
Or is it? Maybe it's the other.
Am I able to start? Or
I'm sorry?
can I start? Or are we doing?
Give us a second.
Yeah.
It's on. No, I don't think that was it. Yeah, I think it's maybe the other one. There's another E-meet. Just add another one. The E-meet Studios, right? Oh, that Pico. It's the Pico. The Pico? Yeah. There we go. All right. So.
Do you find you with bins of stuff in your house?
Yeah, unfortunately, my basement is very hoarded out with bins of hardscape. So if you scape a lot, you come across collections or you come across like discounted stuff, and you kind of buy a bunch just to have it on hand. And unfortunately, I have a bunch of tanks at home and a lot of projects going on, so I do kind of just. I should have put a picture up there. I have like 5 bins of driftwood.
just turn the projector on? Turn it on. So it's not flashing in his face.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you said you use like driftwood you just find around your house, how do you like cure it so it doesn't decay? Do you just like boil the wood?
There is a method where you can kind of seal it using the liquid super glue.
Mhm.
So if you've got wood that's kind of like falling apart, and Stephen Chong did this with a lot of his stuff, he just kind of douses the whole thing with super glue, like the very thin stuff,
Mhm.
and it seals the outer end, outer coating of the wood so it doesn't deteriorate. But for the most part, I tend to go for more hardwoods that are not gonna decay in the water. You can take a wire brush and start just peeling off whatever like loose ends are on the wood, and just go with the more like hardwood part of the wood that's not gonna decay over time.
Unless they're really, really old.
Yeah,
Like
they're really old.
Because a lot, any conifer has extracted to, and so you, boiling it doesn't help, you gotta keep the water for weeks, just run a pump and it starts to slowly age. That's why in gardening you use pine bark, cause it lasts longer, cause it's got oils and stuff, so you really don't want to entertain. But if you find like oak, it's not around here, but in Michigan, they have a lot of beech trees, beeches, okay to use in the tanks. And then all of a sudden you see it in the aquarium shop, which a lot of it's important.
Or I could just log into YouTube.
But a lot of like these little pieces, you can just put it in a big pot or in a garbage tub in your garden. And you can always put a little hydrant, probably not too much, you want to bleach it, or a little bit of bleach cut with water and then just cook it. If you could put time to just circulate, and it'll get the tannins out. And you change the water like once a week and get that dark color out of it. But if you're doing black water, you know, people do black water, you want those tannins in there, so you kind of let that go.
So you put it in water with what?
A pump, just a pump.
Just a pump?
Yeah. You know, a lot of the zoos and aquariums, they use fiberglass wood, that's not real. Yeah. Like, you know, and with the primates, the monkeys, you know, they're pretty tough customers, so that's usually some of it's concrete or gunite. And it's so good, it looks like wood. But, you know, girls pull down banana plants, like, you know. We're gonna take that podium for the next presentation.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna take that podium with us for the next.
I'm gonna actually have to get a decent tripod.
You know, you got the little like model, kind of like a.
We can't do it. I mean,
Shut it on his face. The projector's in his face.
so when you turn it off. We just turn the
Just
projector off.
turn the projector off, yeah.
So sometimes when you use the super glue, it does kind of seal the tip, the end, and then you're not able to use it. I usually just snip off the top. So that's the thing. If you use it, store it,
No, I can't do that.
and it seals itself.
Yeah. We did turn it.
So if you're using the black crate that I mentioned, the fish tank divider, you just grab some shears and you can cut across the top and you can snap it. So we'll do this first to have a place for our hardscape to sit.
So you say that's sold labeled as a tank?
Yeah, on Amazon. You can get the white stuff at Home Depot. It comes in the big sheet. And it's called light diffuser crate.
Yeah.
In Home Depot, but on Amazon you can find it under fish tank divider.
Yeah.
The stuff at Home Depot, I've only found white. You can go on Amazon and get the black one.
Yep.
There's a couple of pond companies selling that stuff too, they call them bio boxes.
Okay.
They come in pieces, you snap them together,
Yeah.
and like, those are easy to cut, I use a little Dremel tool, a little saw. That's how these pond guys build these waterfalls, they build these boxes.
So I've cut 1 into 2, and then you can place this at the bottom so that when you put hardscape in, I guess. Are we good? Oh, nice.
Yep, keep going.
Okay. So I just snip every other. There's a thicker one and a thinner one, and then you just do that. Except for this guy doesn't want to go. Yep. So then this is where I'm going to put the rock. So I normally would create a background out of foam on here, but there's no time to do that, have it cure, so I have a ready-made back. And I so what I did at home was I laid this flat and I put the plastic over it. Then I foamed in just across like this, and then you can just peel it off. You can see how smooth it is because that's the plastic backing here. So instead what I'll do is I'll actually glue this to the back, and it kind of creates the same effect. So I'll lay this flat. And then I guess what I was thinking of doing is let's drip this like this. And then I will spray the back of this.
Where's your gloves?
Go here and press down.
He's showing you what not to do.
It's opposites day.
He didn't touch it.
Oh, it smells.
So hopefully that's good. Yeah, so you can see when you see the white, it means that it's cured and it's like done its thing.
You ever directly put moss on the foam, stick moss in there?
You could, yeah, I plan to. We'll see how far we get there. So then now I will put down this stuff so that we don't damage any glass. Now we will have a little pump because I was planning on a waterfall. So to prevent any vibrations and stuff, I like putting some foam around the area. And we point out the inlet side of the pump on this side so that it sucks water from here instead of there.
You guys can get this type of material. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Barrette foam. There's a guy who sells this stuff. It's great also for biological filtration. It's one that's widely used in a lot of filters.
Swiss trolley.
Swiss trolley is a seller.
Owaza uses that foam in their filters.
Yep.
Doesn't come up that fast.
Huh?
Yeah, it doesn't come up that fast.
It depends, you know, but it's 40 per inch, so it's very coarse and very fine.
Yeah.
You just have to gauge it.
It's so much different density, right?
Oh, yeah, there's 20 different grades.
Yeah, I got it.
He also has a floating one that's at the music pond. But the tanks and everything, they clean it around there, because each slug off, each tumbling around.
So if you need to peel back the foam, you can always cut into it and then rip it out. Because what I want to do is I want a track for this tubing to go through. Just snip it and then you can get your fingers in there and rip it out. So then we'll have the water come out here. Let's cut a little bit further up so that we have some slack. And then I will try gluing this in place. So we hit it with the super glue and then there, spray. Again, without gloves. Well, you really should wear gloves.
Thank you for showing us what not to do.
Exactly, and then if we want to cover it up, since this is not underwater, we can always take some of that foam and cover it up. But plants will go over it and moss anyway, so should be fine. So then I'll do the same thing for. Let's see how we look.
That's a great idea, using that for revolving too. That's what the bonsai people say, the lazy Susan spin.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but they big ones like car tires. They work on the bonsai.
With those pumps that you, or with that pump that you're using, how often do you need to take that out to maintain them, or?
I've never had a pump fail on me, so I typically, if it's a bigger build, I'll build it so that I can replace the pump. But yeah, I mean, if you want to do continuous maintenance, replace it every 2 to 3 years. They're really kind of inexpensive, so there's not too much of a cost.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you could take it out. So sometimes it has like a little grill at the front, so then the plant leaves and stuff will kind of fill up with it. So another thing you can do is take some foam, sponge foam, and then you can kind of put it at the front, the inlet.
Like a pre-filter.
Yeah, pre-filter essentially. Yeah.
Harbor Freight Tool sells, well, so that's all everything, but they've got a whole jumbo bag of like 18 different sizes of Q-tips. And they're all in wooden sticks, so they're really good for cleaning a lot of this stuff, they're really long. There used to be a company out of Germany that would sell these, it was for Eman, they have really long plastic sponge, but they don't make them.
Yeah, I get those at the brewery company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I pick up those.
You can order huge bags of them at Sprockets.
Yeah.
They have a lot to them.
What place, what brewery do you go to?
Oh, well, I haven't been there in a while. I was going to the brewery place in Libertyville.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
Very nice to give you food.
So this is the start. Let's pour some sand in.
Well, do you have a particular type of wood you like to use, or you just work with all different types?
I work with a bunch of different types, so I like using manzanita That's one of my personal favorites because it's a locally sourced wood. Local as in the US. But I'll use the big chunky stuff like this that comes from Malaysia, I believe. You have to be careful with certain types of woods because they do leach tannins, some of them a lot more than others. The manzanita in particular don't leach as much as these other pieces of wood. So like once this is all set up, you might get, you know, tannin water for a few weeks until you do some water changes. And I like using a brush to clean up.
You don't even wear gloves, you know.
Mike, why didn't you remind me to bring gloves? That was your job.
I remind about the tank and I was doing
Yeah,
other
but
things last night.
I feel like I'm getting yelled at about the gloves things more than if I didn't bring the tank. If I didn't bring the tank, you know, it would have been fine. But if I didn't bring the gloves, then that's an issue.
At least you're relaxed.
Okay, so I was thinking of having a floating ledge. Let me see how I got this. And I've got a glass lid for this, so I don't want to have anything that's like poking out of the tank. Okay, let me glue this before I show you guys. Do we have like paper towel? Can someone run and grab me the paper towel? I think I forgot to bring it. Oh, thanks, Matt. Or Bilal and Matt.
Eloy.
Oh, thanks, Eloy. So we'll take the tissue and we'll kind of cram it in there. Then I will spray it a little bit just to keep it wet. And then we can go in with our super glue. And we can go in with the can. You hear that sizzle, you're good. So, and then of course you always want to do it like 2 or 3 pieces or parts when it's like the bigger stuff. So sometimes I like to spray it before you put it in. So you can do that too.
You can actually see the fumes come off that when it's reacting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you had to wet it, so I would use it dry.
You can.
And it gets really smelly. That's good to know.
Well, you can use it dry. I just, it's easier to work with it and shove it in the spot if you use it wet.
Yeah.
When I can always tell it's working because I.
Yeah.
You start getting the smell, you start kind of noticing the burn in the nose.
Burn in the hands.
You have to watch the foam too. We work on ponds, we have, that's a lot of air, but 90 big cans in it, there's carrying agents in it, and when the foam comes out, it's carrying to be careful.
Oh, is it to cure like quicker?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not bad, but all these things have solvents, you know, some, you know, they're not as bad as they used to be, still.
Okay, so this is how it looks Now,
Oh, nice.
so the plan is to build a ledge up here so the water can spill and go over this guy, and the water level will be like here. So I've got some crate that I cut approximately, hopefully it's still good. This, then you can kind of press it into foam. I always lose which side I put my glue. It's either on my left or my right, and I'm looking at both. And I look at the opposite side, unfortunately.
So in the contest, do you take both days to set your tank up, or do you try to get most of it done the first day? Or?
I rush to get it all done, like as much as I can the first day, because I don't want to be stuck.
Yeah.
But the good thing is the first day they give you the least amount of time. So if you're mostly done on the first day, you're kind of relaxing or just nitpicking smaller things on the second day.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I missed it, but did you say anything about what you might think you would do with it as far as livestock or something like this?
Sorry?
Livestock?
Livestock? So since a paludarium isn't completely full of water, I would caution using a lot of bigger fish. I would go more of a shrimp tank or nanofish. So since this is, what is this stuff? 8 gallon, 10 gallon?
I think it's 10.
I think it's 10, yeah. So we would probably go, so you'd fill it with halves, and since we have a lot of hardscaping here as well, it may be maybe like 4 gallons of water. We'd go with nanofish like chili rasboras or ember tetras, and then maybe some shrimp. So that's how I would personally do it. Definitely nothing bigger than those, because you want the fish to accent the scape as well. So if you have oversized fish, first, it's not good for the fish, and second, it looks nicer when it's in scale of the tank.
So when you have it set up like that, where you have some obstacles to get around, how do you go about cleaning the gravel or whatever substrate?
That's a good idea. So yes, cleanup crew, so autocyclists, shrimp. Generally when I do a tank like this that's very like complex, I don't go very heavy with the fish. So there's very less maintenance. And then of course you've got a bunch of plants, so you kind of make it easy for yourself when you don't add so many fish or livestock. So that's personally how I do it. Of course in my bigger tanks I have a lot of fish, so that's kind of that enjoyment. For the most part when I make these tanks, they're kind of just to create an environment as opposed to being a thing just for the fish. So now I've put.
If you don't like snow, then it's good.
I have one snail at wood that's all with hardwood. So.
Oh.
Oh, I'm done with it.
They stop.
Do you think?
Yeah, I have like a bunch of their ice snails and they don't really anything.
Yeah.
I don't know why they stop, they just.
They go face.
I don't know if they gave up or what, but.
They don't play for a long time.
What snail
I
was it?
don't know.
I don't know
It's probably because I have
But I mean, when you're at
5 different species. Only 7 gallon.
Oh, years.
I don't get any.
Oh, really?
The sheep and that's like.
My wood is like speckled.
What kind of board is that?
Just the type you get at Walmart. I don't know the chemical makeup or whatever.
I can't explain it.
Sorry? It's like the PVC foam board. Well, it's not PVC, it's.
It can't be foam. Is that
But some kids don't.
This, the foam sandwich.
Yeah. Would plastic paper be bad for this thing? Or-
What's the limit on the outside?
What? The foam board?
Foam board.
You guys want to pass it around?
Oh, sure.
There's like a small clear something over
Is
it.
it Corrigan?
No.
What department do they sell it?
No.
The one with the gloves.
So you never.
This feels like the styrofoam that they make. Aaron, do you know what it is?
Oh, it's a closed cell.
Yeah.
ABC.
Yeah. But then go get more like. Yeah, it's called PVC.
Yeah. Like cell.
Maybe like bigger, an airplane.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so I'm back.
I don't know the names, I just build.
They use geofoam on roofs for green roofs, that's a closed cell, but that they drill holes in it for drainage, and then they sandwich it with a box.
Yeah.
So you can't put 800 tons of
Yeah.
soil on it. So you only have 6 to 12 inches of dirt on it. That's why they use steel.
So feeding is the key. So feed, overfeed, that's when all the mold fills up.
How long does it take for that thing to start breaking down?
And they,
For what?
Like if it's underwater, how long do you think it'll take for it to start breaking your?
So this
down?
guy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's pretty interesting.
everywhere you
When they do those big ADAs, they just a whole rocks.
I know they got cigarette filters in there.
Oh, yeah, you go.
All sorts of shit.
See, my philosophy is if the tank fails, I just build it again.
Yeah.
So like,
so dusty.
if it lasts me a good 2 years, I'm happy.
I just don't wanna kill my fish.
Yeah, that won't do it.
Everything I've used in my stuff is stuff I see people online using. So if I can't explain why it's safe, but they use it, so
So then YouTube has got it.
yeah, exactly.
That's pretty well.
It is gone. Only puts out the good stuff.
That's right, you're right, sir.
Just.
Yeah, there's these professionals, I forget which company, they were out to show, they make those foam molded backgrounds for the.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Well, they're, if you buy them,
Yeah.
they're totally.
Weekend. When I'm at, so
I tried to make them, they went horribly.
1 o'clock.
Oh, what do you call that?
I'll explain in a second.
Monday morning.
Whatever, it's in my hair everywhere, it's in my clothes.
And I like.
It's basically you're saying.
So they all know, it's crazy. All the sounds will, in the morning, they follow each other and make this pattern.
So I'm mixing some dirt in water to make it so that I can kind of just place it.
Like a mud.
Like a mud, yes, mud. That's what dirt and water is. That's not a diss. I'm thanking him for that.
Is it soil or is it like soil?
It's actually, Mike. You want to tell us what this is? This is like your substrate. The
Oh,
royal gold.
that's from a company in California.
Okay, so it's just soil, but anything can work, like sawdust, sand, whatever.
It's tree fern fiber and coir peak.
Yeah, so what you can do is you can use dirt and then just douse it with super glue, and it'll cover up these gaps that I don't want the water to go through. And then before I'm doing that, I'm kind of filling up the gaps with pieces of the foam, anything I can find.
That's royal gold in the mix.
Mike, you're royal gold.
I use it. No, it's a cannabis media product, but the aeroid people got it. I use it for pitcher plants and stuff, and I grow seedlings with it. It's a high quality mix, but it's very expensive.
Cannabis seedlings?
No.
They're friends.
They're friends.
So if the water is coming out from here, I'm just going to primarily try to seal up as many gaps that I can see it potentially covering. So sand might not be the best for this.
If you had time, you could use silicone or something, right?
Yeah, if I had time. So this is kind of the temporary, like, or like the quick fix.
Quick version, yeah.
The quick version, right? So if I had the time, I'd be using silicone, I'd be using the foam that I press
You
down.
could probably put that soil in the silicone
Yep.
while it's wet, right?
Yeah, yeah, so people do that. So they take a tub of, or container of the dirt, and then they mix in the silicone, it becomes like a putty.
Yeah.
And then that putty they will just apply, and then 24 hours later, it's sealed and is in the shape of the texture of the silicone.
So woodworkers, do they take wood shavings with their putty and then they mix it, they have damaged wood and they work it in and they sand it?
Yeah.
You don't even see it after a kid.
Now we're gonna go to town and just hit it with as much as we can.
Does it really look good so far?
How many gallons do you have?
He had a drum in his garage. Big 50-gallon drum, comes on Amazon.
Oh, super glue?
Yeah.
Oh my
It costs like $1,000. This stuff is not that cheap. Well, I don't want it to come undone and drain into the water too.
Yeah. No, it's really changed the building game, where you can build so fast.
Yeah.
And you can do so much, like what you've done there already with the angles and stuff, it's really, it's great.
So hopefully, I mean, I can see it fuming. All right, how do we look from the front?
Oh, you're gonna hide the tubing coming into the pump on the right side.
Yeah, so I brought some sphagnum moss. We'll cut this. So I kind of had it a little longer just so we don't like make a mistake and then, you know. Usually when you work with the tubing, you want to keep it longer until you know that you got to cut it. Then this is sphagnum moss that you can just get at Home Depot. Should probably wet it first.
Have you ever worked with like Aquatic?
Sorry?
Have you ever worked with Aquatic?
What is that? I don't know.
It's like a, it's kind of like a fabric that you put over.
Oh, like hydrolon almost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's expensive for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, if
Like a hydroponic.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm using it in my garden enclosure for the plants to go forward.
Yeah.
if I wanted to get fancy and we had a lot of time, we could do a lot more things. Like, yeah, like that material that wicks the water, you can kind of put it all over the driftwood so that the plants can get the moisture. Yeah, maybe I should have pre-wet this. So what this will do is it'll hold the moisture, and we can plant directly on top of it.
I have to use some tree fern fiber to try out. That works really good too.
Okay. I haven't really dabbled too much into the different tree substrate materials. I'm still kind of newish when it comes to building like terrariums and paludariums and stuff.
Doing a great job.
So if I put my finger on here, that looks pretty good. So it doesn't have to be completely sealed. Some water may pass, through, but for the most part, as long as the main water flows through and over, I'm happy with it.
When you light these, you have the light on the tank or you have the tank up suspended like with a holder, or how do you light?
I don't particularly have a preference. It would be nice to have the pendant style lights where you can just kind of suspend them from the ceiling.
Sure.
It looks very nice and elegant, but it requires a lot more work.
Yeah.
You can kind of do it if you have a tank that's in a rack with another, layer on top.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna glue the sand so that when the water goes through, it's not gonna
Wash out.
Yeah. So hopefully that's a lot, but hopefully that's good. So I'll give it some time. Now we can.
What kind of glue was that? Is that the stuff you said was?
Yeah, so this is the generic stuff you can get from Amazon. There's like 30 different brands. Like it's all the same chemical.
You made that tip, or you buy extra tips?
It comes with the tips come with it. Usually there's a bunch of tips. Like it comes with like 5 or 6. Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks very good.
And we just have to cover up this back here. Probably should have done that before using all this solid glue.
It's just that fluid water would be enough for the fish for aeration.
And again, in a tank like this, you're not going to go overboard with the stocking.
Right. If you did, that would be sufficient.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be water movement. Then maybe we can go with some aqua soil in the back with some stems.
Do you just use the hose by itself? You put a diffuser on it all, like a little filter inlet or anything to break up the water flow when it comes out, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, so we're gonna put a piece of sponge on it.
Oh.
Otherwise, it's gonna shoot out and hit this or something. Yeah. I picked a little bit of a stronger pump just because I want like that rushing water effect. Or you can use the sphagnum as well. Well, I think sponge is probably better. Oh, there's my sponge. So you take some sponge, then we can just glue it. That way the water's gonna hit the sponge and go straight down, or it's gonna disperse through the sponge and just come out. Maybe we do water first and then plants?
How much water do you want to do?
Just like half.
Okay.
The hydrotone.
Yes, unfortunately.
So instead of using your hand, you can use plastic, grocery bags, anything to disperse the water so that it doesn't mess up your substrate.
Black foam.
Yeah.
Right on
And whoever's bringing this home, I would suggest that you do a couple water
Yeah, probably
before you do any kind of livestock in it.
Yeah.
The aerosol is quite fragrant over here.
We need some elevator music playing or something.
Jeopardy music.
We can't even pour the whole thing in because of the nozzle. You want to unscrew it and
Yeah.
yeah.
Here we go.
Whoop. Oops.
It's your family.
All right. Do we need more water than that? Or?
That's fine.
Okay.
Whoever gets it can fill up the rest.
Got a towel here.
Okay. We could test out the water flow.
Okay, turn it around.
Yeah, just a second. Okay. Dylan, could you plug it in just in case? I don't like if it sprays out. In the
No, it's going after me.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
It works.
Yeah, it's trickling all over the place. It's great. I like you get that it's going on that end. That's very good. Very good.
Yeah, very intentional.
He built this at home, that's why.
Oh yeah.
Exactly what I was gonna.
Wait, I can win my own tank, right?
You got a raffle ticket, buddy.
It's rigged. It's rigged. Okay, so then I'm just gonna add plants and a couple pieces of rock, and we'll call it a day. Oh.
Yeah, cruisers.
No, I'm just. Most of the plants will be up top.
Okay. If you need.
Thank you. I got some dragonstone chips to match. Yeah, you're definitely gonna do some water changes because it's gonna be cloudy because I didn't wash these.
Yeah.
Okay, so for plants, I have a mix of terrarium plants and aquarium plants. So I've got some Ficus pumila, and I've got some hydrocotyl. So
It's a great little plant.
yeah, so we'll separate out a little bit of this.
These Ethiopia.
Who's got the regular?
So we'll put it here in the sphagnum. Put some on this side as well.
There's a variegated plant too.
I've seen it, yeah.
Really nice.
Some of them have like the half moon leaves too, where it's like straight white down the middle.
Yeah.
Or on the left and right.
Like I said, they use Ethiopia a lot.
I think we need a little bit more water because the pump is yeah. Then we've got hydrocotyl. This is an aquarium plant and it will also vine just like this guy will, and so we'll put it by the water. So as the water splashes over, it's going to hydrate our sphagnum.
How would you feed these plants then?
I use liquid ferts in a spray bottle.
Oh, okay.
I just spray it.
That's okay to do with the fish, if you have a fish.
Yeah, so you just take aquarium ferts. They're already aquarium safe, and you put them in a spray bottle, and you just dilute it with water, and then you just do it as is. Eventually, the nutrients will make its way into the water anyway, and then some of it will, and then it'll
circulate.
You'll circulate and give nutrients to your plants that are in the water too.
Like Thrive, right? All in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some on the raffle table.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the demo, we'll raffle them all. There's
How-
also, some of those plants are also on the free taste. You know, there's a hydrocotyl on the free taste.
Just giving it some slack.
There's a man in France, Patrick Blum, he's a big arrow guy, he built these vertical gardens. And he has a continuous water system, and it's not that 6 stories. But it goes through pipes and it keeps watering the, either soil, mix and or.
Probably not. I don't know why these.
It's continuously water the wall.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what you're gonna do there, once it's in the solution. There's no,
I can get, kind of got sealed.
Is it blocked?
Yeah. Okay, I think that's as fast as it was.
Can you put the light on it?
Yeah.
So maybe so the
You want to say I can get the light?
Do the lights have legs? You can figure that out. Thank you.
Yes, they do.
I don't know what this plant is. It's a terrarium plant. It grows kind of big.
Oh, I can't remember the name.
This is okay.
Oh, this is a.
It's got some like type 5 dark star or something name. I forget.
So it's undescribed.
Yeah.
One of the vines look on.
This is your Brazilian pennywort. This will also grow immersed. It's another viney type plant.
There's not much leg. But you can buy the ones that have. Does it lift it out? You can buy the ones that lift the light up.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Unfortunately, this one does not. We'll put that on here for a second.
So yeah, when whoever wins this takes it home, I would spray the top often. That's like good practice when you first set one up, just so everything's hydrated. And then over time, the plants adapt to the humidity of the environment provided. And then it's a lot less of a hassle and you don't have to do that so often.
Would you put a cover over it, like a plastic cover?
Yeah, well, I brought lids. I had lids cut. They're probably not the best lids, but they'll work.
Okay.
And whoever wins it, if they want to upgrade it at some point, they can. This is some terrestrial moss. So I'll be putting that in.
Since the dancing on at 7.
They make good lights, don't look good.
I knew that was coming.
I was there when you blinded him.
That's not a good idea.
Kids don't do that anymore.
That's also looking at the light and don't put the holes in your face.
Oh, that's-
Does that have a timer on it?
Yeah, you can set it for 6, 9, or 12 hours. There is daylight,
Blinding light.
blinding light, yes.
This is Riccia. I like using Riccia as a moss substitute. It will grow immersed and it looks quite nice, so I'll put it in the areas that are in contact with water and it'll grow on top of the driftwood.
Not bad. So this is a donation from a company in Illinois, actually just not far from Chicago, in Chicago suburbs. Phoenix has actually donated this light for us for this setup. I've run a lot of their lights. They're good company, make some good quality stuff. And I actually really like this light a lot.
You might win it.
This is some aquatic moss. It might be Christmas. Then we'll also put those in.
Oh, I don't remember what's the first moss you put in there?
It's a terrestrial moss. I don't know the name.
No, this one.
Oh, that's Riccia. Yeah, Riccia flutans.
Okay.
The stuff is a little bit of a weed. Just a little bit.
It's a liverwort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It likes to float. You can grow it in your tanks and it will want to float more often than not.
I'll give you guys a little story on Riccia when it first got to the United States. It was in 2000 AGA convention. Takashi Amano was already using this in a lot of his aquascapes, and that was the first time the States had access to it when he came over to do a speaking engagement for the AGA convention. there were 2 or 3, I think 3 little quarter-sized portions that were put up in the auction. And I think the first one sold for $90.
That's crazy.
Second one sold for 110. And the third one sold for 130 or 140, if I remember correctly. So they
in order?
Yeah.
Why did the price go up?
Because people wanted it.
Yeah.
And as it starts going away, someone else wants it, and they're going to keep paying the price to get it. So and now I hate that stuff because it gets everywhere in my tank, and you can't get rid of it.
It's in the overflow of my big tank. It's in the sump, like it's everywhere.
One piece, that's all it takes. Little tiny piece. If it gets lodged in wood or rock, you'll never get rid of it.
It's another counterpoint to duckweed. It's basically another type of weed, but it grows in a different form and it looks different.
It's actually really cool.
It is good. It is good though. But the issue is when it grows too much, it wants to lift and float.
So the way they used to plant it is they would get portions, cover a rock, and take netting and tie it down and put it in. It would, if you've never seen pictures of it online, take a look for it. Look for that. You'll see as it's purling, you'll see little bubbles form all over the top of it, and that was the way people knew that their tanks were doing really well. Problem was, like Bilal was saying, if it got real thick, it would basically lift itself up out of that rock.
I had it in the top of my return inlet tube that he had. It was growing right over by the light.
Yeah.
It was clogging up the tube.
I definitely could see it do that.
Planting some Bucephalandra.
Nice. Like, oh, you're getting a whole ecosystem there already.
Does it look good? I can't see it.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. We'll see better.
He's got a high value pin. We're talking about all the weeds you put in there.
Well, then that means that almost anyone can grow it.
Boost special?
I see a little group of celestial Daniels in there.
Really good.
The color, the color of them.
There's a little improtectors.
A bunch of maroon shrimp.
Oh, hey,
Well, you can get everything you need in one spot.
Yeah, with the tank, this is like a happy, it's like Christmas and
Or you could grab those dwarf isopods and some crayfish.
There you go, yeah.
Dwarf isopods fall into the water and they eat them.
You think exercise would call
Do we have any? I'm gonna check out the plant. This is all the plants I brought. So do we have any like job friends or anything?
Not much.
Oh no.
I didn't see any. No. I'm gonna put like just so people can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, Java fern. I was thinking Java moss.
It's like this round. They are trapped.
They'll dry out.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a difference it makes.
There you go.
That's cool.
No.
You know what, it's so cute, you got it right from it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting. No, these just are.
It comes up.
We didn't detail outside.
Who's there?
I'm down to know it and my comments, I think.
Just have to do chopsticks, they have to roll. And just doesn't matter how much.
no matter how much I convince them, I still want to play something. Give up and put it in and figure it out. A little bit's not that pretty.
I mean, whoever takes it home, if you have some kind of way to put that light above by like about a foot, and really
Yeah.
make a difference.
It's like a clip. Like a clip on, like on the
Yeah.
side.
So you saw the legs.
Yeah, if you get the legs on the side.
Yeah. They have all kinds of plant stand things that I have to get them out.
Or if you have it by a wall, you can use like the workshop bracket.
Oh, yeah.
To the wall. So I had some glass, but it's not super fancy, but use this to cover it.
Glass. The edges are really sharp, so we sand them down.
Well, I had the guy sand it too. Yeah. We safety tested it. I did cut a ledge for the wire, but I don't know what side it's on. Okay, so you can do that too.
You can do that.
Huh?
You can do the landscape.
You get Bilal coming
It's gonna be, you can have it for 9 hours. Oh, it looks good.
There we go.
Oh, excellent.
All right, that's it. And yeah, as Mike said, if you
That's beautiful.
We're gonna turn it this way so the camera can catch it.
right, okay.
Record it for posterity.
Whenever I escape, it's always messy. So this is part of the process.
There we go.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Not.
I remember that.
I can try.
That's good, Bilal, very good.
I'm almost 30, dude.
You're still a pup. All righty.
Very nice, sir.
Very good. Very
Thank you.
good. Okay, so Scott, you want to
Who needs a
run
raffle
the?
ticket?
We're gonna run a raffle.
That's in high demand.
If you do not have a ticket, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Beth will hand one out. Okay, we got a quick, a short list of announcements. We're gonna wrap up the tank first, okay, so one lucky winner's gonna get it. But you, one condition though, you have to be able to take it home today. If you can, that's okay, you can pass on it, we will help you disassemble it and get it to your car and all that, but you gotta take it home today. Bilal's not taking it home. He might want to, but.
I got space.
Unless he wins it, I guess.
I won't take it if I win. I want one of you guys to have it.
Few other announcements, so just a couple of reminders, we do have our YouTube channel, we switched over from Zoom, so if you wanna follow the channel, that helps us. We'll be continuing on YouTube, seems to be going pretty well.